Hey there! You can see Khan is colored up with his new toys, the Adidas Takumi Sen, and his buddy Winston here. But yeah, Khan and I are going to give a review on the Takumi Sen 11, and I'll be doing most of the talking because, well, he's just a tired boy. Okay friends, here we have the specs and features for the Adidas Adizero Takumi Sen 11. I've also brought the Adios 9 and the Adios Pro 4 with me because these models share a lot of the same technologies and a lot of the same features. Adidas has really streamlined their racing line with a lot of the design language and a lot of the features so that the Takumi Sen has a very obvious place within it. Let's start with the upper. We have the light lock upper that you're going to find on the Adios 9 and the Adios Pro 4, and it's a very strong mesh. It's a very opaque mesh. You know how some of those meshes you can just see right through? You're not going to see through this, but it's still very light and it holds my foot well. In the Adios 9 and the Adios Pro 4, I've been true to size and I have not had any movement. I haven't had to size up. I haven't had to do any lace locks or anything. I think that the upper changes they have made to their latest line of racing shoes has worked well for my foot in particular. The laces are pretty weak. Adidas always, even on their top end models, just has kind of the thin, slick laces that don't really do much. I haven't really had any problems with them, but we don't have those sawtooth laces that we get on all the other brands' models. The tongue is not gusseted and it's thin, the same track spike-esque tongue that you're going to find on the other models. There's probably just enough substance there to keep the laces off the feet, but if you tie down your shoes really tight, you're going to get lace bite. Still have this little heel flip tab here, has the little digits for the digital clock there instead of, you know, a hidden message. A little bit of padding in the heel. Again, I've not had any problems with the level of support or the level of lockdown here. This supportive band that goes from the rear of the midfoot around the heel really does kind of keep my foot in place. I haven't tried these on, but if the Adios 9 and the Adios Pro 4 are an indicator, then it's going to do a really good job of that. If we flip down to the outsole, light traction outsole with a little bit of a patch of Continental rubber on the front, and I've really been liking this outsole. You can tell I have not run in these yet, because if I did, they wouldn't show wear, they would just show dirt. Like, this was a white outsole too, but it's just, I mean, all that is dirt from the road, but there is no abrasion on either of these. And the Adios 9 and Adios Pro 4 have over 100 miles each. So I think that without even trying this on, it's going to last a while. We've got a little window here to see the glass fiber rods. I think they might be carbon infused glass fiber rods. Tap the rods. And then if we go to the midsole here, we have 33 millimeters in the heel with a 7 millimeter drop. So that goes down to 26 in the forefoot if my math is correct. And this is Light Strike Pro. And I am pretty sure it's the same Light Strike Pro that we're going to find on the Adios 9 and on the Adios Pro 4. That is the bouncier, more fun Light Strike Pro, rather than we're going to get on the Takumi Sen 8, 9, or 10. I didn't have the 9 or the 10, but I do have the 8, and I am going to use this shoe to compare it to the 8. And part of that is because the Takumi Sen 8 has just lasted a long time. And I really love the Takumi Sen line, and I'm excited to see what these newer features in the most updated Adidas design language are going to bring to the Takumi Sen line. Also, we have the early stage rocker, which starts at about 60% of the shoe length. Now, in the Takumi Sen 11, just by looking at it, it doesn't look like as quite an aggressive rocker as, say, the Adios Pro 4, because the Adios Pro 4 has more stack. So it's able to get a sharper angle up on that forefoot. And then if we go down to the Adios 9, which has the least stack, it still has that earlier rocker, but you don't really notice the rocker as much because there's not as much stack to create that high angle. So this is going to be somewhere in the middle, and you're going to be thinking more about the lightweight combining with that early rocker to give you that faster turnover rather than the steep angle of the rocker. When it comes to the weight, I measured my left shoe at 187 grams in a men's size 9.5, which is about 6.6 ounces, and the right shoe is 189 grams, which is 6.7 ounces. So about the same weight as a Metaspeed Sky or Metaspeed Edge Paris, not the Edge or Sky Tokyo, because those are lighter than this, but it's still lighter than most of the other super shoes, and it sits in kind of that short course super shoe weight range. All right, let's get them on the road. All right, first run in the Adidas Adizero Takumi Sen 11. And a little bit of context here. This is just a little shakeout in the afternoon of July 4th. I just did a race like 5 hours ago, so I'm not really using this shoe for its intended purpose right now, which is to run fast or run races or repeats. Just trying to get the feel of it. And my early reaction after 2.5 miles is I need to run on it with fresh legs to really get a feel for what it can do, because this shakeout at 8-minute pace, it's not really conducive to what I think the shoe's designed to do. It does feel like it's somewhere in between the Adios Pro 4 and the Adios 9, but does it get the strengths of both with none of their weaknesses, or does it get into the weaknesses of both without any strengths? That I've yet to determine, and that's why I need to run on it with fresh legs. I can say with regards to the fit that even though the Takumi Sen 11 uses the same upper technology as the Adios 9 and the Adios Pro 4, the fit is different. If you were someone who had to consider sizing up a half size in the Adios Pro 4, you don't need to do that in the Takumi Sen 11. It feels almost a little big to me. Here, just standing static, I've got at least a thumb's width worth of room at the front, and almost a little bit more on my left foot. And I'm not moving around laterally too much, but I might need to lock the laces down a little bit more. So definitely not one where you would need to consider sizing up. Road workout in the Adidas Takumi Sen 11 was doing hilly 2K reps, stringing them together, so it was more like 2 by 4K reps. For a short course racer, it has a very smooth and forgiving transition from the midfoot through the forefoot. I think for those sustained, fast efforts, it's a really good training tool. Might be good as a racer. I did about 8K worth of hilly work today. I could probably take this on an 8K race. Got to compare it with some of the other shoes though. Okay, it's time for a shoe off. Right here we have the Adidas Adizero Takumi Sen 11, and I'm going to be comparing it with the Takumi Sen 8. I did not have the 9 or the 10. I don't think there were a lot of differences there, but at least I have another predecessor to compare it with. I have the New Balance Fuel Cell SC Pacer V2. I have the Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3. I have the Asics Metaspeed Edge Paris. I have the 361 degrees Miro Nude, and I have the Nike StreakFly 2. Okay, so as I do my warm-up before this little shoe off, I need to tell you how it's going to be a little bit different than most of my standard shoe offs. The Takumi Sen 11, as well as many other shoes in this shoe off, are short course or short duration racers, what companies would call a 5K or 10K racer. At least that's what they're intended to be, what they're marketed to be. Therefore, when I'm comparing them, I need to compare them at paces or efforts approaching 10K pace or 5K pace, maybe even a little faster. And rather than commenting on the mid-stride during the testing like I normally would at marathon pace for like a marathon shoe off, I'm going to do some fast 400s at those quicker race paces and comment directly afterwards. Very similar to how I did with the shoe offs with the 361 degrees Miro Nude or the Nike StreakFly 2. If you haven't gone to see those reviews, go check those out. So also it's going to be on a track, but despite the red color of the track, this track is not a rubberized surface. It is an asphalt surface. So it is tarmac testing because these are road racers. And finally, it's hot outside. It's noon in July, and I just raced yesterday. So there's a possibility I might channel my inner James T. Kirk and lose the shirt halfway through the workout, just like Andy, the midlife runner. However, I don't have the impressive arm sleeve tattoo that Andy does, so please don't unsubscribe for that. Just be prepared for my pasty, non-tan skin, because I do most of my running in the dark. All right, enough of me yapping. Let's get to the shoe off. Okay, Takumi Sen 11 versus the Takumi Sen 8. So the fit is very similar. The Takumi Sen 8 feels like it might have a little bit more breathable of an upper. It also feels like that upper is a little bit more broken in, if uppers can be broken in. Maybe it's just dialed in, because the light lock upper on the new generation of Adidas shoes, once you get it dialed in, it's great, but it takes a little bit of fiddling with. It's still better than like the Adios Pro 3. Anyway, as far as midsole response, the Takumi Sen 11 has a little bit more bounce to it, but that Takumi Sen 8 is probably equally as economic. I can tell the geometries are similar. I can tell the foams are similar. I think a broken in Takumi Sen 8, 9, or 10 might be almost as good as an out of the box Takumi Sen 11, but we'll see how this foam livens up the more I use it. Okay, the New Balance SC Pacer V2 versus the Takumi Sen 11. So the SC Pacer V2 is a short course racer only insofar as New Balance says it's a short course racer. And that's the category I put it in, mainly because they are pigeonholing it into that shoe, but it could just easily be thought of as a lower stack alternative to more of an all-rounder super shoe. The Takumi Sen 11 is very much lighter and feels very much more performance based. They're both performance shoes, but the geometries and the stats, you know, the stack heights and the drops are very similar. They're not all that different on these shoes. I think the newer Lightstrike Pro and the Takumi Sen 11 is a little bit bouncier, but it just feels like there's more volume of foam under the SC Pacer V2. There's also a full length carbon plate, you know, right there, tap the plate, whereas on the Takumi Sen we have the glass fiber rods. The Takumi Sen's $20 cheaper, even new. The SC Pacer I think of as more of a performance trainer that has super shoe qualities, and I'm kind of thinking the Takumi Sen 11 is going to fit in that same mold, a short course racer that I might use as a tempo or road interval shoe, but we'll see. All right, Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3 and Takumi Sen 11. So the Puma, even though it's more of an all-rounder shoe that I once considered a good shoe for 1 hour race durations, and I think the more I use it, I find the wheelhouse gets a little bit larger than that. It can go longer as well as go shorter. It's a good all-rounder. It definitely feels like more shoe than the Takumi Sen 11, and in my size 9.5, it does weigh more, but not by a whole lot. We're talking like 7.1 ounces and 6.7 ounces. So there is more energy coming off the Puma if you're landing midfoot and you're using that whole midsole, because even landing midfoot, that wedge shape, landing midfoot, you're still getting a big bounce off of that rear foot. And even when I'm up on the forefoot, there's still a good amount of foam there, and that aliphatic TPU is very energetic. The TPEE in the Lightstrike Pro is a different kind of energetic. If you're one who likes your shoe to have some super shoe qualities but also stay out of your way a little bit, the Takumi Sen does that. The Puma gives you a little bit more oomph. in a little bit more of a package. It's also a little bit more expensive, even though it's comparatively cheap as far as all-rounder super shoes. This guy's getting at it here too. I wonder what he thinks of me talking to myself. Okay, Asics Metaspeed Edge Paris and the Takumi Sen 11. So I had to bring out the Edge Paris because if I'm going to be testing a 5K, 10K racer, I have to bring out the shoe that has my 5K lifetime PR, which was set just a couple of months ago at the Boston 5K in the Edge Paris. For me, for Chaz, having the Edge Paris means I don't really need the Takumi Sen 11 as a racer. Will I hold on to it? I mean, I still have 2 more shoes to test against it. Will I hold on to it? Maybe. We'll see how the rest of the shoe off goes and how the rest of my road testing goes. But I think even at the 5K and faster than 5K paces that I was just running, the Edge Paris does it better and can also do a little bit longer distance. It throws me forward a little bit more. What the Takumi Sen 11 has that the Edge Paris doesn't is it's closer to the ground. I won't say it has better ground feel. Neither of these are ground feel type of shoes, but the fact that it is closer to the ground means it's inherently more stable, which you don't always get from a shoe with Lightstrike Pro. The Edge Paris has a really thin midfoot and the heel is not all that thick, so if you overpronate like I do, there's a little bit more wobble there. Of course, I'm usually up on the forefoot, and you don't get that as much in the Takumi Sen 11. So it's probably going to end up being a fast day workout shoe for me, but I've got a couple other 5K, 10K racers to compare it with. Okay, this is the 361 degrees Miro Nude, and of course we have the Takumi Sen 11. And this is why we do the whole shoe off, and don't try to come to any early conclusions. The Miro Nude, for all of its featherlight weight, it barely breaks 4 ounces, 120 grams. It's really more of a cruiser than a cranker. And I want to talk a little bit more about the difference between those categories, maybe during the shoe talk. It just so happens that the pace at which the Miro Nude likes to cruise is closer to 5K pace, in that mid to high 540s per mile, for me at least. And while I had the Takumi Sen 11 next to it, it kind of felt similar at that pace. Maybe what I've been thinking about the Takumi Sen 11 versus the other shoes is I've been thinking it should be cranking more, sort of like the Adios Pro 4 has a really aggressive toe off, an aggressive rocker. The rocker's in the same place here, but the angle is not as much because there's not as much stack. Really, the Takumi Sen 11, even though it's intended for faster races than the Adios Pro 4, the Miro Nude is telling me that the Takumi Sen 11 is really meant to cruise at those faster paces rather than crank. So it's more about maintaining that high zone and staying in it, almost like a Metaspeed Sky, rather than cranking over and really focusing on that forward momentum like the Metaspeed Edge. Okay, of course we have the Nike StreakFly 2 here and the Takumi Sen 11. And if we're talking about 5K, 10K racers, short course racers, you have to bring out what is arguably the GOAT of purpose-driven short course racers, and that's the StreakFly 2. And the StreakFly 2, I talked about cruise versus crank. The StreakFly 2 is 100% crank. The StreakFly 2 has no chill. It's something that you need to be up on your toes and pushing the pace, cranking. The StreakFly 2 is like a chihuahua on the leash, and barking at the other dog saying, let me at him, let me at him. Whereas the Takumi Sen is more like a greyhound or a whippet, where it's going to glide along and be fast, but it's going to be a little bit more graceful and want to hold it for longer. On the back stretch, I purposely backed off the pace to something more like a 10K effort, probably more 8K effort, rather than the 5K to 3K pace that I've been doing on these 400s. And at that effort, at that pace, the Takumi Sen 11 felt a lot more inviting and a lot more appropriate than the StreakFly 2, which was kind of barking at me to get up on my forefoot and say, go faster, go faster, go faster. So as far as its efficacy as a short course racer, the Takumi Sen might still be useful in something in the 5K to 10K range, probably for me, favoring more towards the 10K, 8K to 10K, depending on the course, depending on my goals. But it's certainly something where I'm going to want to set into that pace and keep it. I still think I have some shoes in my collection that might be better in that context. But if we think about that's its intended race purpose, I could also use it as a workout shoe that really favors those zones, like mile repeats, 2-mile repeats, maybe some long hill intervals, you know, tempo intervals. I think it would be great for that. And at $180, it's going to be cheaper than most super shoes. If you're trying to spend $180 and deciding between these two, it depends whether you want a 5K cranker or you want something that you could also train in and maybe take up to 10K or a little bit longer. And that, I mean, I could tell you which is which. You probably already know. Hey, I managed to keep my shirt on. This wind is helping. So yeah, we'll do some more road testing and get to the shoe talk.
Okay, shoe talk, Takumi Sen 11. I don't think there's a lot I'm going to say about this shoe that I haven't already said during the shoe off. A big takeaway would be that the Takumi Sen 11 is not as big of a change from its previous versions as the Adios Pro 4 or the Adios 9 is from their respective previous versions. Yes, we have the new Light Strike Pro, yes, we have the new Light Lock upper and the Light Traction outsole, but the ride of the shoe, the experience of the shoe is a lot more similar to the Takumi Sen 8 than it is to, say, the Adios Pro 4 or Adios 9, let's say. Although that's still a good thing. There still is some improvement, a little more imbalance there. However, I think there are going to be a lot more exciting short course racers. Does that mean you shouldn't get the Takumi Sen 11? Well, it depends what you want to use it for. What I think I will intend to use it for as a tempo trainer and a long interval trainer, it's going to last for a while and it's going to be in good condition for a while. So like I said during the shoe off, mile repeats, longer repeats, tempo runs, things like that. But while I was comparing it, I was thinking more about the categories of performance shoes, really of super shoes. And we've already seen this table that I've put together of super shoe categories. There's the long course super shoes, the ones that favor the marathons and long duration races. There's the all-rounders, which can run a marathon, can run a 5K, but really might be better for something like a half marathon for a lot of people. And then there's the short course racers, like the Takumi Sen is intended to be, but like the StreakFly 2 or the Miro Nude. And I'm thinking that there's more to it to describe a super shoe than that, because there's also the experience. We all have heard ASICs talk about cadence versus stride runners, and then some people would interpret that as forefoot versus rear foot. I don't necessarily think about that. I think of it more as an experience. I think some shoes have you glide and float over the road and maintain a constant pace, and those are cruisers. And then some shoes really encourage you to drive forward. They propel you forward, fling you forward, and those shoes are crankers, which might be good for accelerations or tight turns, going up steep hills, whereas cruisers are good for maintaining a pace for a long time. So I have this spectrum of cruise versus crank here, and I'm going to go ahead and put some shoes from the previous list on there where I think they would fit on that spectrum. The Endorphin Pro series I think is pretty much right in between cruise and crank. It's also kind of an all-rounder. So it would be, this is slowly approaching a Dungeons and Dragons alignment chart, and the Endorphin Pro series would be kind of right smack dab in the middle on both axes. But yeah, there are shoes from each category of long course, short course, all-rounder that vary on that spectrum of cruise versus crank. So where does that leave us? This is how I'm going to classify our super shoes right now. We've got our long course and our all-rounders and our short course shoes, but in each of those categories, some of them are more cruisers and some of them are more crankers. And this is not an exhaustive list. This is only a few shoes that I've put on this list. Where would the Takumi Sen 11 go? it would go right there. I see the Takumi Sen 11 as a short course racing flat, super racing flat, but really favors more of a cruising experience rather than a cranking experience. This is not a StreakFly 2 killer. This is more of like a Miro Nude that you could beat up a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the shoe talk with that. Should you buy the Takumi Sen 11? It's $180 USD. If you're going to use it as a trainer, then it could fit in the Adizero lineup like that. But should you buy it as a racing shoe? I think there might be some better racing shoes on the market that you might just pay a little bit extra for. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next run.